This is Planet 76, your source for all things Philadelphia 76ers. We've got another great episode coming your way today, and we're cleared for takeoff. Let's go.
Welcome, everybody, to Planet 76, episode 73. My name is Michael.
72.
As always, wait, I thought it was 73.
72.
Anyway, 72. I really thought it was 73, but that's okay. Troy with me, as always. Planet 76, you know the drill. Sixers, we're in probably This is going on probably week 3 of the Sixers, right?
Something like that.
Something like that. 10 games through the season. Sixers currently stand 4-6 on the year. We're gonna get into some thoughts for sure. And yeah, make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast, whether you're on YouTube watching or Spotify listening or both. Either way, make sure you subscribe. And we're just gonna get right into the episode. So Troy, why don't you start us off? Let's get into it.
I really love that gentle introduction as to what this episode might consist of.
I always do this. I swear it was 73.
Not that. The whole, it's going to have some thoughts or takes. It's very gentle as to what we might get into regarding the 4-6 Philadelphia 76ers. I'll just start with, again, we're through 10 games, so that's like what? That's like 12% of the way through the regular season already. It's a long year, I get that, but we're chugging right along. After a 4-4 start, this is what I threw on the outline, and then we can go from there. But after a 4-4 start for the Sixers, I knew we had 2 home games coming up against Washington and New York. I was like, oh man, we were 1-4 at one point. We're 4-4. We're gonna win 2 more in a row. We're gonna be 6-4 through 10, looking good. 2 home games against Washington, New York, and then we lose twice to the Washington Wizards and New York Knicks in the Wells Fargo Center. That was just upsetting. I mean, I don't know what else to say, but that was pretty upsetting. Now, Embiid didn't play in either of those games. James Harden got hurt. Obviously we're going to get into that. He's set to miss a month with a foot injury. We'll talk about what that means for the team coming up. We're going to address some issues going on that we see as to why the Sixers are 4-6, as to why they dropped 2 games like that at home that they should absolutely win. I mean, think about it. 3 of our 6 losses, we've lost to the Spurs at home, the Knicks at home, the Wizards at home. That is not okay. So we'll get into that. And then kind of talk what this next month is going to look like without James Harden. So, yeah, I'm sure you're kind of in the same boat following those 2 games, but so I don't know where you want to go with that, but I'll give you the floor here.
There's so many avenues I want to go down with this. It's just...
It's tough.
First thing... I don't even really know what to say. First thing, the second Wizards game and the Knicks game. I watched both of those games.
Mm-hmm.
Poor performances by the Sixers overall. The second Wizards game, you can kind of excuse it, maybe, because no Embiid, and the Wizards have 2 really good bigs in Porzingis and Gafford, who are kind of going to destroy you on the glass because you have no interior presence without Embiid. And then that's exactly what happens. The Kristaps Porzingis and Daniel Gafford have a field day scoring on the inside. The Sixers can't really score inside either. Yeah. They get killed on the glass on both ends. Pretty much it for that game. Glenn decides not to play Paul Reed. The only other real interior presence on this team, aside from Embiid, and he barely plays. I'm not even sure if he played at all. I think he only played a few minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure the mentality behind that decision. And the Knicks game, I can't really excuse that because their interior guy with Mitchell Robinson, he exited the game pretty early with an injury. And the
Yeah,
Sixers were up by 10, I think,
yeah,
multiple times
probably
in the
halfway
fourth
through the fourth
quarter.
quarter.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
were up big in the fourth quarter multiple times, and they choked. They choked. The Knicks went on an 11-2 run at the end of the fourth quarter, and that was the game. Then the Sixers proceeded to miss two threes, and I think they missed a couple free throws, and that was the game.
hmm.
D'Anthony Melton airballed a three. Tyrese
Right.
Maxey forced a three off a rebound. And that's the game right there. You can't really. I can't excuse that. That was a horrible game, a horrible loss. They should have won, easily should have won. They
Yep.
were up by 10. Again, like I said, the Knicks had no business winning that game at all.
Yeah.
They're not a good team. They're just not a good team. And if you're the Sixers, I know they lost to the Spurs and everything, but the Knicks are not a good team. They have some good players, but they're not really a cohesive unit, and they
Yeah.
just
Well, yeah, like we opened up. I mean, these are games that you expect to win.
yeah, exactly.
At home.
Hmm.
You know, losing in New York or losing in Washington would be one thing, but even a home and home, Washington and then at the Wells Fargo Center, we win the first one, and then we dropped the second one. I remember. I mean, so I texted you after the second Washington game because I wasn't able to watch it, and so I took like a 15-second glance at the box score, and I saw the Sixers made 19 threes, and I saw the Wizards made 5.
Hmm.
So that's a 42-point difference, right?
Yep.
And I was confused. I didn't understand how the Sixers could lose that game based off that. And then, you look further into it, and as you mentioned, they got out-rebounded by 11. Porzingis was doing whatever he wanted. But just kind of confusing from my perspective to see how well this team can shoot from three and how good their perimeter defense obviously was, or maybe it was a lack of making shots from the Wizards, but based on that, how do you lose a game by 10 where you win the 3-point differential by 42? What? Doesn't
Yeah,
make a whole lot of sense.
that's my thing is the Wizards bigs just scored everywhere. And there was nobody in the paint to combat that. They saw no Embiid equals we score a lot of points in the paint. And after the post game, I saw something, I forget who posted it. Someone asked Porzingis after the game, how much easier is it with no Embiid? And he politely basically said, yeah, it's way easier. And
Yeah.
you would expect him to say that because it's true. If Embiid is there, these Daniel Gafford and Kristaps Porzingis are not impacting the game the way they did. Embiid is not only scoring on them, but they're probably not scoring on him, if at all. Maybe still, but definitely not as much as they did. And the rebounds, they might get some rebounds, but Embiid is definitely going to have an impact on how many rebounds they're actually getting. What effect are these guys having on the glass? Embiid he's going to be a big factor in that if he plays, which obviously he did not. So you look at the interior on both ends, and you say, well, there was nobody to really affect that area of the game, and that's where the Wizards really took advantage.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but it feels like Embiid's been out for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why.
And it's only been a week, which is weird, right?
Right. Yeah, it's only he hasn't played since the game against Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
and it feels like he's been for forever. So it's been 3 games. What other issues do you see? Again, as to why they're 4-6, as to why they're even struggle to close out a game against New York, as to why they can't rebound other than Embiid not being there, or is it coaching? Is it this? Is it what is it?
Should we just have a field day with Glenn and just Glenn Rivers?
Go for it.
Glenn Rivers. I've seen a lot of talk about him getting fired this year, and maybe mid-season if the Sixers don't play well. But the Sixers have had every reason to get rid of him. After the 2021 playoffs, could have done it. They easily could have done it. Last year's playoffs, they easily could have done it. But they didn't do it. So to me, I'm seeing that and I'm saying, okay, this team is stuck with Glenn Rivers. Maybe for the whole season, maybe even after the playoffs end. Because they had every chance to get rid of him and they didn't do it. And the same issues are happening. His rotations are extremely questionable. He doesn't play certain guys when he definitely should be. Paul Reed, when you don't have a big, when Joel Embiid's out and you need rebounding and defense on the interior. Coaching challenges, he never challenges anything. I will never understand. That is the one major thing I have with him. Obviously, everything else is important, but one major issue I have, he never challenges anything. He just stands there and raises his arms in the air. It's just, Doc, if you disagree with the call, challenge it. And especially in late games, in the late fourth quarter, he just sits there and flails his arms in the air. Dude, if you don't like the call, you can challenge it and maybe get it reversed. And then sometimes, I remember last year in the playoffs, there was one controversial call he had, or that was called, and everyone asked him after the game, why don't you challenge it? Why don't you challenge it? And he said, oh, well, my staff said I shouldn't do it. Dude, you're the head coach. What?
I remember that.
What decisions are you actually making if not a simple challenge call? You're the head coach. What are you doing if you're not doing that? So there's clearly a lot of issues, and a lot of it stems from Glenn and his refusal to really adjust in game or even before game. Like I said, we know Embiid's not playing. So you should go into the game saying, all right, we need something on the interior. We need some paint presence. We need some rebounding. I'm going to play Paul Reed a little more. No. He doesn't do that. He does the exact opposite of what you might think a coach would do. Usually. And he does have some good moments, I won't lie, but they're very few and far between, especially lately. And again, it's only been 10 games, but especially lately. So that's all. Glenn, I wish I was waving you by, but yeah, I'm not. And there's still 70 games left, so.
Yep, gear up for the long haul for this season because he ain't going anywhere. But I don't even know. Like I want to try and play devil's advocate and come to his defense a little bit, but I don't really know.
It's hard. Like I said, he's not always at fault, and he does have good moments, but they're very few and far between. Yeah. And a lot of times, what goes wrong is because of him.
Yeah,
if we're being honest.
Yeah. And I guess, there are new faces, and he hasn't figured out the rotations yet. I'd say, this might not be a difficult, might not be it might be a no-brainer decision, but I like how, when guys have been out, the guy that gets minutes through these first 10 games, with James Harden out, with, whoever it is DeAnthony Melton. And I've liked that. He's kind of letting DeAnthony Melton do his thing. Which DeAnthony Melton has been great. So
I love DeAnthony Melton.
He's been in double digits, and I didn't realize this until I was doing some research for the episode. He's been in double digits each of the last 6 games this season. So really, really cool to see him, meshing, and he's good defensively too. He's just playing well.
He's the Sixers' Draymond Green.
Yeah. Yeah, Draymond guard.
Yes.
DeAnthony Melton. So he's been good. There are questionable rotation things, certainly. And again, I don't know if I hope that is just Doc figuring out what it needs to be. Because again, it isn't the easiest thing to figure out what lineup to do when you have 4 or 5 new guys that are getting significant minutes. I get that, but you got to figure it out at some point. So hopefully it will be figured out when it needs to be. Late season and into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because the reality is we're not sitting here talking about a Sixers team wondering, are they going to make the playoffs this year? They're going to make the playoffs. And the desire isn't just to make the playoffs. The desire is to have a deep run in the playoffs. So, it's just kind of a different conversation than what they might be having in other cities right now about their NBA team.
A lot of other cities, because as you know, as I know, the Sixers are one of the few teams in the league, very few, I mean, it's a short list, that have championship aspirations. Not even aspirations. Yeah. They should be a championship level team.
Yeah. Right. And there's one team in the NBA really who is playing like that, and that's the Milwaukee Bucks, who are 9-0.
Milwaukee Bucks, man.
Middleton hasn't played yet, has he?
No. Nope.
No.
They are world
9-0 without
beaters
Chris
on both
Middleton.
ends of the floor.
I mean, they are looking scary.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, think about it. We're 10 games into the season, and the Sixers are 6 back in the loss column of the Milwaukee Bucks. So, that's incredible. I'll also say, so the rotation thing that I saw someone tweet about, and I noticed it as soon as it happened, when the Knicks were trying to make a run late fourth quarter. I forget how much time was left. I forget how long these guys stayed together on the court, but I said it was on the free throw line. I said as soon as this happened, I was like, this is going to be interesting. And I don't know. I didn't know what I meant by that, if it was good or bad, but it's going to be interesting. Is when Doc put Montrezl Harrell and Paul Reed on the floor together late fourth quarter against the Knicks. I was like, this is going to be interesting. And obviously it didn't work out well because the Sixers ended up giving up the lead and losing that game. The other thing in that one, Tyrese Maxey, he scored a lot of points, but he forced a lot. And I get without James Harden, and you can give your take on this too, but without James and without Joel, like Tyrese, he's kind of got to be that guy to go get his. But he forced some that were a little bit questionable. Just a little bit questionable. And, he didn't shoot well from the floor. Tobias had a good game against New York. But yeah, Tyrese, I mean, again, if anyone's going to be the one shooting a lot, it's going to be him in that circumstance. But he was kind of forcing the issue, in my opinion, on his birthday against the Knicks.
Yeah, I feel that same way. He did end up taking, I think, around 30 shots, and he ended with probably around 30 points as well.
Yep.
And to your point, yeah, he kind of does have to be that guy. I just wish he converted on more of those shot attempts. And I think part of that comes with time because he hasn't had many games where he's been the number one guy, in the NBA at least. So being able to adjust to that takes time, and the more reps he gets there, if Embiid misses more games when Harden's out, which he very well could, probably will, maybe, we'll see, Maxey is going to have more chances at that. So I think I don't want to excuse that because you don't want to see a guy like that forcing shots. You don't want to see anybody forcing shots because no matter how good your player, no matter how good your number one is, or no matter how good your best player is, you don't want a guy forcing shots because then it becomes bad offense, and you can instead just redistribute those shots to higher percentage guys or things like that. You can redistribute the shots to actually create better shots and get better offense. But yeah, Maxey did force a little bit, especially down the stretch of the fourth in that Knicks game. 1-3 he had, where I think P.J. Tucker missed a free throw, possibly. I know it was a missed shot, and the Sixers got the offensive
P.J. missed
rebound.
A free throw. Matisse threw it out to him.
Yes.
He shot from
oh, my
deep
gosh. I just remember that entire play now that you said that.
To take the lead. I think we were down 2 after that free throw.
And
Matisse kicks it out to Tyrese, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds.
And you didn't really need that. So kind of questionable in my opinion.
Now again, we'd be sitting here going nuts, or would have if he made that, and the Wells Fargo Center would have exploded. Considering like at that point it was not looking good for the Sixers to win that game. And again, even as you mentioned earlier, DeAnthony Melton got a shot to tie it with a handful of seconds left. That was not even near the basket, but with a handful of seconds left, that's kind of what you got to get there. But if you want to know why the Sixers lost that game, you can simply look at the shots. So both teams made 37 field goal attempts. The only difference is The Sixers took 18 more. So the Sixers went 37 for 98 from the field, good for 37%, and the Knicks were 37 for 80. I mean, that's missing a lot of shots.
Yeah.
You make one more of those, we win the game, or we're tied, and we go. You know what I mean? Like
Maxey takes 30 shots. I mean, that's nearly a third of your overall shot attempts.
Yeah.
And obviously, like we said, he kind of has to, but maybe redistribute. Maybe you can redistribute those shots somewhere else, just as an alternative, because obviously he's your best player. But there comes a point where
so yeah, he went 10 for 29.
Yeah.
DeAnthony Melton had a rough shooting night, 4 for 18. But again, I mean, how many games this year is DeAnthony Melton going to have 18 shot attempts?
That's true.
Not a ton. You know, you don't hate it.
Yeah.
And again, I've been a fan of watching him play this year. I think he steps right in and fits in well.
I could, if we weren't in the middle of the season, I would make a whole podcast about DeAnthony Melton. I'd make a whole episode about DeAnthony Melton. Just everything about his game.
Yeah, he's good. What else do you see? Whether concern or a positive. We can be positive on this episode too. But
yeah.
What else do you see? Whether it's a player, whether it's Matisse has gotten a little more action. Daniel House has missed a couple games. Fourth quarter Furk, he got some action against the Knicks, hit a big three.
Goat.
So I don't know. What have you seen, likes or dislikes from some of these guys off the bench?
Well, I do like Harrell. I think he definitely gives you a spark.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to just a guy who's going to go at the other team. He is a bit undersized, so that kind of handicaps him a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think he's good. I like Harrell. Obviously, Melton, I don't want to get too... I will rant all day about the Anthony Melton, so I won't get too much into that. But, yeah, Maxey still has been really good in the absence of Embiid and then Harden on Friday. And it's weird because Harden got hurt in that Wizards game, right? And he came back and played, which is kind of strange. But then they ruled him out a month. I guess after further evaluation, they realized it was kind of bad, and he's out a month now.
Right, but how often do you see someone get hurt, come back, and then, a month?
Yeah, so, I mean, that's pretty much all I have for that area. I'm hoping the Sixers can, and I don't want to say stay afloat, because they still are a really good team even without Harden. Someone mentioned it before. This is basically last year's team with a better bench and Embiid. So, and a better starting lineup. Well, yes. And you would like to think that they can at least just win out the games that Harden misses. Maybe a little better than just win out. Because it's only going to end up being about 10 games, 11 games. So it's a decent chunk of games. That's basically 1/8 of the season. But I think if they can at least win out, I think the Sixers.
Or what do you mean by that?
Win out meaning win more games than they lose.
Okay.
Whether it be like going a little above 500 or just around 500, just not quite staying afloat, but just somewhere in the middle of not being bad and not being bad and winning. Just kind of in the middle, winning more than.
In other words, we don't want to be through 20 games. We don't want to be 7 and 13.
Yeah, you don't want to. Yes, exactly, exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you? So yeah, I mean that's going to be 10 games or so without James Harden.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at even the upcoming schedule, I threw in here because it's kind of interesting to me. I just noticed this. So you got Phoenix tomorrow night, of course. There's a lot of back-to-backs with the same team. So Atlanta, home and home, Thursday, Saturday. Then we play Sunday. So 4 games between Monday to Sunday, and then the Sixers don't play till Friday.
That's so weird. Why is that? Do you know why?
I don't know. I looked around the league. Other teams are playing. It's like a mini vacation for the Sixers. So they play the Jazz Sunday the 13th. Then they don't play until Milwaukee on Friday the 18th. So Monday through Thursday, Sixers are off. I'm not mad about it. Maybe they can regroup or whatever from there, and get some guys healthy. Get some guys some time to get their bodies right. But yeah, just kind of interesting there. So one guy you mentioned him a little bit, Paul Reed. Tell me a little bit about Paul Reed and this whole, once Embiid gets back, like, is he going to play? Because, like, Harrell's obviously stepping into his own, and, he's kind of seems to be the guy that's going to get those minutes. But Paul Reed had, 6 steals against the Knicks? Like, is this guy going to play?
Did he actually have 6 steals?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Paul Reed had 2 points, 6 steals, 2 blocks, 4 rebounds in 18 minutes.
Why am I just hearing this?
So we got to get a guy like that on the floor. But is he going to be able to get on the floor? 6 steals.
6
in 18
steals?
minutes and 2 blocks. But do you see what I'm saying? Like, there's a problem because Embiid's coming back. And I think you and me both, like, we want to see that guy get on the floor, but Montrezl Harrell's playing well too. How does that work? If you're the coach, so if Doc Rivers gets fired today, they're like,
please,
let's call up this guy from Planet 76, Michael, and let's bring him in to be the head coach. What do you do with this big man situation, Paul Reed in particular? What do you do?
Here's what I do. Embiid obviously is starting, Tucker alongside him, Harris. I stagger the minutes between Harrell and Reed. So let's say Embiid plays 27 minutes. I give Reed 7, I give Harrell 6. I do not play them alongside each other. That's a horrible idea in most games. Like 90% of the time, that's a horrible idea. I play either Tucker or Harris or both alongside one of them while they're on the floor. Whoever plays better than the other, I start to give that guy the other guy's minutes as the time goes along. And yeah, that would be my strategy because I think it's a toss-up, honestly, between those two guys. They're both very similar, but I think Paul Reed's a little bit more dynamic in the sense that he's a bit lengthier. I'm not sure if he's taller, but he's a bit lengthier. Mm-hmm. He's more athletic. He's definitely better defensively. He's definitely a better rebounder as well. I feel like he fits maybe a little better alongside a guy like Maxey because both guys are kind of quick, athletic, wiry kind of guys. Paul Reed's a good lob threat too. Montrezl Harrell's a good lob threat too.
Right, but that could even go to, your point of staggering minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you pair Harden with the Harrell minutes and you pair Maxey with the Reed minutes.
Yeah, I think either way, I think both guys fit alongside either player, but that would be my strategy, and I would see who performs better, who's more impactful on their time, who's more impactful with their time on the floor, which guy fits better with which lineup. Does he fit better at the he would play the 5. Does he fit better with Tucker at the 4, Harris at the 4? Mm-hmm. Things like that. So, and obviously 10 games, if that's the sample size, until Harden returns, we'd have a pretty... I think we would have an okay picture of how that's going. Yeah. And then after that, you can kind of roll with that continuously and see if it continues.
Right. So Montrezl Harrell played his most minutes he has played in a Sixers uniform against the Knicks. He had 29 minutes in that one. By far his most minutes. His previous high was 17 against that second game in Toronto.
Wow.
And he played well. I watched that game. We both watched that game. That was his most points, most minutes, most rebounds. Like, that was his best game, and he was active. He got to the free throw line. I mean, you're talking. I mean, he started that game, but a backup center who goes 6 for 8 from the free throw line, 4 for 6 from the field. You're going to take that all day long. Yeah. A guy that's going to get to the line. So, to your point, like, both guys have earned the right to play. Both guys have serious potential to help this team win. It's just, Doc has his hands full a little bit as to how to make that work especially when Embiid comes back. So it shall be interesting. I think there's, over these next few games without Harden, like, I mean, you kind of get flashbacks to last season, early season, before February 10th when the Sixers acquired Harden. Like, they were in position in the NBA standings, obviously, but they were in a good space, like, without Harden last year. So it's not like they're not capable of winning games. A couple desires, I guess, that I would have would be for Joel Embiid to be Joel Embiid, when he gets back and healthy, to really carry this team, lead this team without Harden. And for George Niang, even off the bench, to keep doing what he's been doing. Like, he had 15, 13, 12, I think, 3 of the last 4 games.
Too.
He's been shooting the ball well. He had that 3 against New York was crazy, fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I don't know how he hit that.
That was the only 3 he made all game, and it was just...
That was insane.
He hardly looked at the rim. He kind of just caught it and threw it up.
He just, hand in his face.
Yeah.
He didn't move at all.
Yeah,
Whoever threw it to him got him in perfect spot.
Yeah.
And he just threw it up and made it. But that was cool. But, for him to continue making shots off the bench, because he's a big piece to, what this offense brings as far as spacing and everything. So, yeah, I mean, I to your point, too, we're 4-6. It just stings that you come off back-to-back losses against the Wizards and the Knicks at home. So that just stings a little bit. And then, it's not an easy schedule at all over these next 5. You get Phoenix, you get Atlanta twice, you get Utah, and you get Milwaukee before that little break. So that might not be fun.
You could,
and, hopefully Joel plays.
I hate to say it, but you could easily lose all these games.
4-11.
I mean, you got the Suns, Hawks twice, who are playing super well. You got the Jazz, who are 7-2, and the Bucks are undefeated 8-0. So I'm just saying they could lose. They could lose all 5 of these games. Just like it's very possible. It really is. The Suns are 7-2 as well. They're playing super well. So.
No, I don't know. It's again, you think about it. Now, Sixers have played tough teams. They played the Milwaukee once. They played Boston. They played Toronto twice.
Yeah.
But again, 3 of their 6 losses are the Spurs, the Knicks, and the Wizards. In other words, they're not doing themselves any favors, because you would like to, win those ones, and then you're a little more okay losing to Atlanta. You're a little more okay losing to Milwaukee and Phoenix. But when you lose the ones you're supposed to win. Because, we have no right to argue about how tough this schedule is coming up in the next 5 games, because we just lost 2 winnable games. Yeah. That's kind of in the trend of this episode, is flashing back to those 2 games. But it's frustrating. So, yeah. Anything else? Good, bad, indifferent.
What?
Good, bad, or indifferent?
I'm very indifferent right now. I'm just very sad that Harden's going to be missing time. Extremely sad, actually. When I saw that on Thursday, I was actually sad for a few minutes. I'm not even going to lie. So I'm just hoping that this team can really lock in. I'm hoping Embiid doesn't have to miss too many more games. And I'm hoping that the bench can really finally start to get themselves situated. I'm hoping guys like Melton, guys like Harrell, House even can really keep things going. Melton has been amazing, obviously. House has to pick it up a little bit, not going to lie. Harrell's been playing very well too, so hoping these guys can just continue, really.
Yeah, and the defense. I want to see some defense. There's been flashes, I think, in some of the... Again, we were 1-4, we went to 4-4. There were flashes of some defense in those 3 games, and then kind of went back a little bit, certainly giving up 121 to the Wizards is not ideal.
No, not at all. Not in the slightest.
To say it politically correct. But, all right. That's episode 72 in a nutshell. Sixers are 4-6. Tough schedule coming up. We got 4 games to break down when we record next time, so we'll break down the Atlanta action. We'll break down Phoenix. Again, that's tomorrow, so most of you might be listening to this post-Phoenix game, but forgive us for that. And then Utah on next Sunday, a week from today, at home against the Jazz. So we'll have it all here. Planet 76, episode 73 coming your way then. And we will see you next time. Peace.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to Planet 76 Podcast. Please consider subscribing. It helps us out a lot and lets you know that you enjoy what we post. So thank you, and peace out.